That was shown during Hushu. And when winds blow at a speed of over 220 kilometers per hour, there is nothing one can do, particularly when you least expect it, that it would assume such devastating dimensions. In their pursuit of excellence, media personnel always known for their bravery are found among the first few who visit the disaster spots. The people also look forward to information provided by them as they are authentic and also reliable. It is here the media can play a crucial role. It can avoid sensationalizing news and creating unnecessary hype, which will only create panic among the public, leading from to other crises through chaos and also say panic and fear. Instead, the media should try to change the mindset of the society for a more proactive approach. Whenever a disaster is approaching, media should ensure that the early warnings, evacuation plans, and post-disaster activities available through various advanced communication systems reach the people in time, preparing them to meet any eventuality. It's also important that media's role during the disaster is based on moral and ethical lines. This we mention here because for the increasing advertisement editorials, which are called advertorials, and paid news seen in the media of late. We also know media is mostly in the hands of private players who have business and commercial interests. In Vizag, the officials turned Nelson's eye to the CRZ, the Coastal Regulation Zone norms, the violations of CRZ, and the issue of bauxite mining always hangs fire. This we should talk about beach nourishment instead of violating this CRZ norms. We come across a lot of buildings on the seashore, particularly on the other side of the beach road. They say they're all temporary structures, but they exist there permanently. Coming to man-made disasters, we are lucky to escape with a couple or more during recent times. It's not out of place to mention about this vast industrial belt in the city. There are all major factories like the Hindustan Petroleum Corporation's HPCL, Visakhapatnam Refinery, Coromandel Fertilizers, Visakhapatnam Steel Plant, NTPC Simhadri, which we talked about, and Pharma City, and other industrial units are located side by side, so without much elbow room. Some of these units are going ahead, doubling their capacity. HPCL, Visakhapatnam Refinery, Visakhapatnam Steel Plant, and also NTPC Simhadri. They are doing this much against the warnings of environmental activists. And HPCL Visakhapatnam Refinery witnessed two major industrial accidents in less than a decade, which are proved disastrous and almost led to a catastrophe. There was leakage from a huge LPG storage sphere, which spread very quickly all over the plant, and of course it led to a couple of blasts, and as many as 60 were killed in the refinery. The second accident was in 2013 when a blast in the cooling tower left about 26 dead. For the media to play a proactive role, it's important that it is equipped with all the necessary information. The HPCL learning from the first experience arranged daily media conferences like our Chief Minister Chandrababu Naidu did. Of course, these people, they're doing a better job giving the latest updates on the fate of victims, how they are treated. Some of them were shifted by helicopter from here to Bombay and other places for treatment, and the compensation amount paid, restoration work, and also other aspects, which not only served to salvage their reputation, but also HPCL is now going ahead with its expansion plans. The government and also this industrial organization should therefore take the media into confidence and provide all the information to ensure that the people are not misled during an event complicating matters. The reason why I mentioned this is information. It's very difficult. These people, the CEOs, are not accessible to the media, and particularly places like the naval base. Now it's very difficult. Even the media vehicle is stopped there, in spite of the Navy PRO accompanying us. So in such cases, unless we have information, there is nothing the media can do. Thank you.
There is one important aspect which Mr. Prabhakar Sharma raised about the early warning systems. The UN in its climate change talks, they have a special session on community knowledge. Like the fishermen have a lot of age-old wisdom, how to predict and what kind of movement, the waves and the birds and the flora and fauna, all these things. So it's better to record all those things and make a registry. That's what they say. Probably our Indian government also will follow that soon.
Thanks for the opportunity. I just worry why the INCOIS, the early warning system for tsunamis, is placed in Hyderabad, Miapur, rather than in coastal Andhra, because the farmers, the fishermen are here and the reporters are here. The reporter in Hyderabad, Nizampet, what he will do with tsunami, I really don't understand. When the center is there, because the scientists have an airport there and their children have education there. I think people should look into that.
Sir.
No, I think the location of the institute is not very important, but I think what the INCOIS does.
Semi-arid Hyderabad needs.
No, what the INCOIS does is they put out lots of bulletins, put out a lot of information which is supposedly to be in the fishermen's villages here. I have seen a long time ago, they had boards in which the information comes.
Media and then our interaction with the science.
Yeah, this information.
These people should have that interaction. Kakinada, Rajahmundry, Visakhapatnam, Machilipatnam, Nelluru, Chitturu reporters should have a direct talk with INCOIS rather than Hyderabad people.
Sir, Tsunami Center is at Hyderabad. If you need any information, if you call to the Tsunami Center Hyderabad, sir, our director is not available. So only our directors are give the information. You are not giving information.
No, they don't.
So in competitive world, you can't say anything, but you need information immediately. But our directors are come to here tomorrow. We will announce this giving in the day after tomorrow. It may not be possible. That happens until today.
No, I think the structures are not available, but I think we should not be calling the Tsunami Center for information. If I am living in a village in Repalle, I should not be calling New York to find out. I should be calling the local district person who should be empowered with the information that the Tsunami Center has to give. So we should have a system where you call your local district disaster management center, cell or whatever. They should give the information. They should collect the information from the Tsunami Center. We should not be calling 1 lakh people should not be calling
So
that
what I am
center.
saying, as a reporters we are saying, as a journalist I am saying. So if you actually are getting information from these people also, but accurate information they are giving by the Hyderabad. If they are not available, that tsunami is there, some warning is there, but that information people are not available. How can you give to the people? How can you say to the people? That's
If you are talking as a journalist,
yes, as a journalist I am
as a
saying.
journalist, whether you are in Repalle or in Maratpalli in Hyderabad, it's the same. When I call this INCOIS fellow, they tell me the same information. So they don't. No, information.
That's all. It depends upon the political issues. We
No,
cannot say
see, the scientific institutions
We asked
do not
Srinivasan
have
about it.
communication system still. Unfortunately, these scientific institutions also do not have a system wherein they have a communication officer who will give information. Please understand this. I have done even in Delhi, if I go to IMD, the IMD will not have a communication officer who will give me information.
yes, we are
Okay.
accepting.
So that is our problem.
But what we are saying here, if any government, if any institute, but what they are need, they are not provided. So actually the Tsunami Center is located in Visakhapatnam and in the coastal area, they give information very easy, you can access with them.
So
And they are
annually
putting,
they conduct reporters, for reporters they conduct rehearsal kind of thing. A rehearsal for the Pacific Rim countries where there will be tsunami. how it is done. All the cameramen, all reporters go there and then see. But after that they don't use it because there is no sea.
Yes.
That's the
See,
funny fact.
See, one of the best things that happens in India, whenever there is a disaster, all government organizations, all institutions close the information barrier, information flow. Prabhakar Sharma told you how the naval officer will not allow with the PRO also. So when something happens, the communication is closed. That we have to change.
So what we say, if you are close anything, you can expect more. If you open, nothing. So what I am saying?
That's what we are
If you
fighting.
are giving the information, nothing, sir.
See
If
that-
you have closed it, so something rumors is going, something happening, something. So actually today's WhatsApp, some news is there. So maybe tomorrow or day after tomorrow, 200 meters of rain is going on Chennai. That information given by the NASA.
Yes.
Actually, there is no nothing. But what I am saying, if you are close it, so anybody go in the different rumors. If you open it, nothing is there.
I think we need to build all the systems. That is the effort I think we are now
So
starting.
these are systems, we can't say anything.
If the information is really public health importance or damaging the people, it should be properly given. In Gujarat during swine flu from 2009 to till date, we have a SMS system. The SMS going to Chief Minister will go to the remotest pressman who is registered. And that's a transparency. There is a concern. If they will not write, number is not declared, we don't declare the name of the person.
In case of a natural disaster, when the mobile towers collapse, the SMS system will not work.
That's still some alternative. Basically, it's a, and one thing I tell you, sir has rightly pointed out, even doctors are also a poor communicator. And you are so smart people, वो सब पूरा बुला लेंगे हमसे. That's why. That is a good thing.
What sir is saying is that there has to be an institutional mechanism.
In the Indian response system, incident response system, there is a provision at almost in your cabinet rank where they say that there should be a media officer. Neither are the appointed one. There is no communication officers, there is no PROs, right? So the structure is there. We spend so much money on training, but there is no officer per se. Second institutional problem, we are supposed to have district disaster management authorities. They are still not established. 2005, 2015, 10 years. So I mean, we can always have these debates continuously. We have the institutions in place, but it's not manned. And if you expect the district collector to be everything, to be from the disaster manager to the responder to everything, and give you information, there's no point in being media agencies or journalists or academics in this whole place. So my primary argument was that this responsibility is of the government, and the appointments of these institutions and policies already there. So I mean, our argument should be from that man the position and get the work done. And that's the main argument.
Sir, Krishna Rao sir, you just now said the fishermen have traditional knowledge. I'll just give you one small example, sir. Kindly just give me 2 minutes, not more than that. I went to Save Turtles program. It was a big function, 3 days, sumptuous dinners and all this. And okay, that's everything's fine. The traditional fisherman has come and he has pleaded with the activists and everybody, the entire audience. The stray dogs, you cannot protect the dogs as well as the turtles, sea turtles, Olive Ridley and all this. And the dead turtles, they come onto the shore and immediately, or they want to lay the eggs, and the stray dogs immediately pounce upon them and eat away the flesh and they die. During this process of stray dogs eating the turtles, they eat the gallbladder also. Gallbladder, as bile acids. He was telling all this traditional knowledge, which nobody knew about. And immediately it goes mad. It seems the BP shoots up, and the stray dog, there are so many stray dogs. The stray dogs should not be touched. They should be worshipped. Kal Bhairav. So what happens is, immediately it goes crazy and he starts biting at least 20 or 25 people in that close vicinity, especially fisherman's village. And I said, okay, let the stray dogs be put in the kennel or just sold away to Mizoram or Shillong or wherever, and it's a win-win situation. Of course, there's a Blue Cross lady sitting on the dais, and said, don't just ignore this guy. Now, why I am telling is traditional knowledge, all the rich experience, just like Sharmaji was frustrated, even he's not allowed to go inside, even if the PRO is sitting beside him. It's just imagine, even as a social activist, we want to do something for the society. That traditional, we don't get a chance to interact with the traditional fishermen. We got that knowledge and we want, I written 4 pages to the GVMC. Please do something about stray dogs because it's dangerous all along the coast, throughout the entire nation. Nothing happens. Frustration. That is why I am saying all this is frustration.
Any more questions? Two of our speakers raised some important points regarding training the journalists and some professional PROs and other things. That will take us to the next speaker, Professor D.V.R. Murthy, Head of the Department of Journalism. In fact, they give academic knowledge and also train them and send them to various broadcasting stations and newspapers. But my question to you before you start your address is,
Yes.
you also have hundreds of citizen journalists on social media. Okay, how do you face this competition?
I'll answer it towards the end of my presentation. Okay. How we face it. Good evening. I'll make a presentation in the context of Hudud cyclone last year, which we had experienced. I was one of the most of Visagites were victims of Hudud cyclone here. So what I did is I analyzed newspaper contents particularly during this Hudud cyclone coverage. And also television I could not do it because one of the problems is we could not access television news for 1 week. We did not have power in Visakhapatnam city. So that was the reason I say social media, television news, anything was not available to us. Particularly the irony in this situation last year was we had to depend only on newspapers, no other source of information for us. So people were talking about Hudud cyclone and the victims, other things. People were knowing in Vijayawada, Hyderabad, other places. But people in Visakhapatnam, we never knew what was happening for us. So that was one of the problems for us. So this is one of the models one can learn, even kept in other books you read it, they will give you a lot of disaster management models, they will talk about communication sources, but this was one of the important points one we should take note of. What I say it is, broadly newspapers and covered 8 type of stories, they covered it last time, Hudud. So one was situation assessment and awareness, stories were done on it. But government ignored it, nobody took care of it. So some of the newspapers wrote about the crisis that was impending for Visakhapatnam, particularly cyclone. They write stories, but the problem is nobody cares for them. They did not make it. But last time somehow, since Chief Minister was involved in this Hudud crisis, they brought awareness among the people. But the problem here is most of the fishermen refuse to move from the places. Even if you tell them that it's a big cyclone is impending, it will come out, but they refuse to move out of the place. That's one of the biggest problems we face. And we also did not take that information seriously last time. So this also we should consider it. Sometimes, number of times we receive a lot of information through various channels that cyclone is there, rains are there. So we don't take them seriously because we have used it for last 30, 40, 50 years. Hudud also happened like that. Nobody took it so seriously. But that was one of the problems. We did not keep anything ready to face the situation in another 4 or 5 days. So most of the stories, they focused on situation assessment and awareness. Stories were done on it. Some of the journalists did a good job. But the problem is it did not reach the target audience. It did not come to our notice. The second one was emergency communication. This was not in place. Stories were written. Many journalists wrote on stories about emergency communication, what to keep and what not to keep, everything. So the problem was the Hudud started hitting the coast on 11th October night, 12 o'clock. So 11th October night, 12 o'clock onwards, we did not have power. So it went up, but next day morning we did not have power, we did not know what was happening. No television was working, no social media, nothing. So we did not know what was exactly happening. So we experienced that kind of a cyclone for 24 hours. No information for us. So this what happened was emergency communication, they put them in place except BSNL phones were working, landline. No other phone was working. Because our mobile phones were not kept ready, we did not charge them. Because 4, 5, 6, 7 days our mobile phones were not working, we did not get any information from any source. Even though emergency communication was kept in place with the government, except BSNL mobile landline, in select places that was working. And no person received any communication from any source. The problem was for those landlines,
Only select places they were working, other places they were not working. Suppose if they work for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, after that we did not get any communication. So this was the biggest problem, and the problem here was we did not keep anything ready for us for eating. Vegetables, milk, or anything, we did not keep them ready because our physics were not working. They were out of order for 1 week. So the second was what they did, emergency communication stories, and they flared up. They came in the media, but we did not take them. The problem here is evacuation stories were written well by the print media journalists. So they focused on evacuation and other things. But the problem was post-event the stories were covered. In the sense, after the hudud happened, and newspapers wrote stories on evacuation, what the government did. They wrote the stories, but they were not much used. The next one was search and rescue operations they took up, but nobody, casualties were not there except property damage, and it went on well. The problem is mass care and sheltering, this was very poor. Stories were covered, and many journalists warned them earlier. Number of times journalists write stories on mass care and sheltering, but our shelter places, they were not properly kept because there were no toilets. Particularly mass, number of people were put inside, no toilets were available for the people, and the problem is they were not given food. So this happens every time. The state government doesn't take notice of it. So this is one of the problems one should realize and focus on it. The problem is they put many people in shelter places. They were not open. And once in a year they were open at the time of a cyclone or something else. Other days they were not functioning. And the problem is they don't have drinking water, they don't have toilets to work, and because of it, people refuse to go to shelter places. So this should be the focus. The same thing also happened in Katrina. So when Katrina also happened was, one of the complaints during that time, the government took care of them. They were complaining that they were not told to bring their clothes. So many people went to shelter homes in Katrina in America, but they were saying that they were not told how long we had to stay in shelter homes. They never told us. So we could not bring our clothes. The second problem was there is also corruption there in Katrina. So some people were transported in buses who were giving money to them. Others were left out in the shelter homes. They were saying this was also happening in America, not only in India. A number of times we say it. In Katrina they said it. They recorded it as a textbook case study for Katrina. Another problem was the most point that was missing in media was trauma and victimization. In the sense, people were affected by the hudud. Post hudud, 6 months, 7 months, people suffered. They refused to go to their houses located along the coast. They said that another hudud may come. So the problem was media was media was not focusing on trauma stories. Many people were psychologically hit by the hudud cyclone, but no story appeared in newspapers. So 3 points I bring to your notice because it's only for you to consider in the context. Hudud cyclone, I'm not talking about other natural disasters. These stories can be looked into. One point is cultural factors must be taken into consideration. The point here was the food that was distributed to the people, it was not good for consumption. The second, many people distribute them fruits. They were useless. By the time they were packed and sent to the people, they could not eat them. A lot of food was thrown out, and this was one of the reasons for infections. And the same thing also happened during tsunami in Nagapattinam. The problem was 2 cultural factors were not considered. One was people were given clothes to wear, and most of the women were given jeans pants and t-shirts. They were refused by the Tamil Nadu people. Their culture did not permit them to wear, so they refused all the clothes. They were dumped in all the schools in Nagapattinam. The second was most of the people were given chapati to eat, and Tamilians they refused to eat chapati. That was also dumped around schools. And because of that, schools were not open because the clothes and the food, unconsumed food, both were kept in the schools. So schools were not open for months together. So children did not have education. So the problem is when we think of any disaster management plan, think about the cultural factors of the people, what they eat. Suppose in case of a crisis, what can you do? Mostly in what we do in Andhra Pradesh is we give them pulihara patlam, that's what we call yellow rice, but we don't give them water. So people who eat pulihara, that's yellow rice, they require water, but there is no water in and around. So think about this cultural factor, what people eat. Sometimes what we do, we provide them clothes, sometimes certain things you provide them which are not useful to them. Mostly people they will ask about blankets or they ask for something to cover their bodies. That was not given to them. Either we give them shirts or trousers or something like that. It was not useful. So that's what we should think about during any crisis, cultural factors. And mostly fishermen, they come to know, suppose any eventuality, like hudu or like cyclone, they will know it before scientists predict. They know about it. Mostly, we conducted a survey with them last time. They said we know it when something happens in the sea, so our people don't go into the sea. Even if you tell them number of times, they say nothing will happen, we will go into the sea. Our lives are tied with the water. Anyhow, we want to die, we will go into it. This is one of the factors. Notice should be taken out. The second point last time was middle class people were ignored completely by the government as well as the NGOs. So this point was also not brought out by the media. Middle class in the sense they were not given neither food, nor water, nor milk, anything was not given to middle income groups. They were completely excluded from this relief material. Everything was dumped, everything was given only to the marginal sections that was dumped so much. So many food, rice, everything was given to them. Nothing was given to middle income groups. So the problem was last time what we noticed was middle income groups were suffering a lot. They did not have milk to consume, they were not given. They did not have vegetables to cook, they were not given. They did not have much rice to keep in the house, that was not given. So the government every time it was thinking about only the poor people. Say we want to serve the poor, but they never think about the middle income groups. So these groups were affected. One of the research papers which was written by our sociology professor mentioned this middle income groups. Because he says that middle income groups are not useful to the government because they will not vote for the government. Therefore, every time they are ignored. So the second point is middle income groups are ignored in any crisis. So think about a better model for middle income groups also, not only for the poor. Think about this marginalized, not only marginalized, this group of people are ignored, 40% in India.
What about Hudu? So I will now share my own experience of covering Jammu and Kashmir floods, which is strategically perhaps as a journalist last year, and it has it changed my life. It changed my worldview in the sense that it gave me my first exposure to what a natural disaster is. And when I saw hundreds of thousands of people suffering and a large part of Srinagar underwater, I realized that this is one subject that I should work seriously on. And in last 1 year, I have already written one paper. This is the second paper that I'm working on. First one was presented in JNU at a disaster law conference. Then I presented it at a conference in Bangladesh. And this year in March, I went to the UN World Conference on Disaster Risk Reduction. There also my paper was accepted, and I presented the same paper there as well in Sendai, Japan. And then again in Philippines in September, there was an ASEAN Universities Conference. And that paper was on right to compensation. I met hundreds and hundreds of people, and all my learned seniors here have expressed their concern about the fault lines that actually defines how we meet with disaster in the government machinery, from people to resources to infrastructure. So that paper was on right to compensation to disaster victims. Every disaster victim should be given a right to compensation, a legal right to compensation, and that should be codified in the law. Because we know that not everyone gets compensation in this country who suffers. In Kashmir, I met hundreds of them. After that, I started working on, so I think two of my learned speakers before me have mentioned this point, that post-disaster, we forget about disasters. For example, whether it is a post-trauma, the trauma that people face after disasters, or the question of infrastructure, rebuilding, reconstructing houses, everything. We don't give that much space to the challenges common people face. We talk about empowering the communities, making them more resilient, but how do communities reconstruct their own structures and houses?